What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Happy Saturday. Little impromptu, some might say, emergency podcast talking about what happened this week. Going to be a short podcast today, guys. Really just wanted to do some quick updates. We got a really cool podcast coming up on our scheduled day, which is going to be Tuesday. I just wanted to come out here and hang out. Jonah is tied up today, was not able to jump in. He may surprise us at some point, but the ever faithful and ever available Jeremy Davis was available, so he's going to hang out and chat with me today. What's going on, bro?
Let's be more clear. I was thinking to myself, you know what? I'm going to enjoy my Saturday with my family, and you just text bombed me, and you said, I have to be here. You're never going to call me again if I don't. That you need my support, that without me, this show has no backbone. So you're welcome.
That all tracks. Also, just so everybody knows, I was wearing different clothing. I've changed twice since Jeremy jumped in here because I needed to match his outfit. So we kind of match in that it's the freaking summer and we're both wearing black hoodies. Mine is my Closer Collective sales communication community. His is the world's best real estate community, freaking sub 2, baby. There is none like it, never to be duplicated. But let's get into it, guys. This has been a really interesting week, which is why I wanted to take a couple minutes to chat about it. This Tuesday, we are doing our God versus Science podcast. Very excited about that. Is evolution real? Does evolution pass the test? But as a result of us having that conversation, we're not going to be able to be talking about the things that have been happening this week and really the last couple of weeks, which is like big moves in politics, right? A lot of you guys have heard about the tax hikes or the tax plan. Let's call it the tax plan that Kamala has put out there. RFK made some big changes and announcements this week. So we wanted to take a minute to announce that and just trying to chat about that and get perspective. Let's talk about the tax hikes. Jeremy, have you heard about Kamala's tax plan? If so, what are your thoughts on it?
All right, so let's get up to the same page here. She's looking at unrealized gains, correct? So
unrealized gains, yep. That's one of the aspects.
For those of you that do not know what unrealized gains are, if you put $10 in the stock market and that stock goes up 50%, now you've got $15 in the stock market, but you don't make that money until you sell. So right now, Kamala is actually trying to generate a tax plan that you can actually be taxed on unrealized gains. That, in my opinion, is just straight across the board unacceptable. That's like me buying a property to do a fix and flip on it and getting taxed on the potential of what I can make on it before the property actually sells and I actually make my profit. So I think that I can't imagine anybody with any brain, any like semblance of a brain would go, that sounds like a good idea. So we can come back to that, but we know about that, the unrealized gains. We also know that, just general capital gains. And I know that Biden was also, and I don't know if this is still the plan, if it's still going down that road. I know that Biden was trying to remove the 1031. And I'll be honest, I'm not totally caught up on that. The 1031, I think for a second went away, or you weren't able to do all of it and move it over. So I know that there's a little bit of changes there. Other than that, is there any other tax things that I'm not thinking of right now?
Yeah, so let's play devil's advocate. That might be an appropriate application of that term. Interesting. So let's play devil's advocate, right? Guys, if you guys want to come chat about this with us, there's the link right there. Come hang out. I want to hear your opinions. Couple things. One, so this is supposed to be applicable, right, in fairness, to people only who have a $100 million of net worth and I believe supposedly are 80% liquid, right? So that is going to be the big response or refute points of a lot of people. But it doesn't change the fact that 25% unrealized gains, fix and flips are probably not the best example to use for that. But if you're just holding, right, let's just say something changes in the economy, you have, I don't know, $10 million worth of real estate, equity in real estate, or $1 million in equity in your real estate. So you got $1 million in equity in real estate. So you're telling me that I have to pay 25% unrealized capital gains? So I have to come up with $250,000 to pay because the value of my property went up. Okay, here's my first question. What happens if the value goes back down? Do I get that $250 back?
They should. I mean, like, I think the IRS, that's why the IRS exists, is to give us money, right?
That's exactly what it's there for, right? Derek, we always want you in here, bro. This is here's the thing. So our resident liberal is absent today of his own decisions. I mean, he was busy, but
He was scared.
He he's not here to defend this thing. And honestly, I'm really interested in Jonah's perspective on this because he is a liberal through and through, right? He, a true San Franciscan, but he's also a business guy. He's also a real estate investor. So I'm genuinely interested in hearing his perspective on this. If you guys didn't see it, Pace Morby, for those of you guys who don't know who Pace is, did a video about this that I think he did a really good job of breaking this down. Had about 650 comments so far as of this morning when I watched the video. Very, very interesting back and forth and the perspective of people. Here's what I think is the biggest issue. I think we have a couple of things at play. Because the first thing is people's inability. No, let me say it like this. There's the tax plan. There is the proposed tax plan and the ramifications of that tax plan. That's one aspect of it. Okay, what's the other aspect of it? The other aspect of it is people's ability, people meaning the voters' ability to process what this means. And I think a lot of people that are using talking points are going to be saying, well, unless you're ultra rich and you got $100 million, first of all, you don't need to own a huge amount of real estate to end up with $100 million net worth, right? Like, let's just be real. You can own some multifamily. It is a significant amount. Let's not mince words. But if you get into multifamily, you're not too far away from having $100 million worth of real estate, right? But even if you have never imagined that you can reach the ultra wealthy status where you have a net worth of over $100 million, that's fine. But you know who does have $100 million net worth? Employers. And those people are going to make business decisions based on those things, those tax hikes. And those tax hikes and the decisions that the business owners who are impacted by those tax hikes are going to make business decisions that are going to impact the everyday person. So I think, in my opinion, it's a little bit naive for people to think that unless you're a millionaire, you're ultra wealthy, this doesn't affect you, because I think it affects everybody. So I think it's two issues. It's the tax plan and then people's ability to process what this means.
So I want to talk about we all know the analogy, the crabs in the bucket, right? When a crab's trying to crawl out of that bucket and is about to climb out, the other crabs grab the crab and pull the crab back in, right? That is, and I'm just going to just make a shot at liberal full and through. That is essentially the mentality of what this tax plan would look like, right? So I just, by the way, to be perfectly clear, Daniel, when I was younger, before I grew up, before I got experienced in business in general, I was actually a liberal. I believe it or not, I originally registered as a Democrat.
That actually tracks. That makes a lot of sense to me.
I was uneducated. I was naive. I followed my parents, they were both, very, very poor, never good with financial literacy. And they were always telling me that the rich have the upper hand. The rich always have the upper hand. And while there's some truth to that, I mean, in the sense of the rich typically control different sectors of business, it wasn't until I realized that I have the potential of being the rich, right? To being that person with the liquid $100 million+ Not there yet. I hope to be there and I plan to be there. But like my point to that being is that the crab mentality, the crab in a bucket mentality, this is what's trying to do is pull down the people that are making more than you. Now, for years, I always had a jealousy of, like, let's just say Trump Jr. Okay. If Trump Jr. said to dad, hey, dad, I want to start a makeup business, right? Or Kylie Jenner, I want to do this, or whatever it may be. It was a lot easier for them because they came from wealth and they came from a family of connections to where it was as simple as, yeah, son, let me connect you with my graphic team. Let me connect you with my attorneys, yada, 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 right? But here's the difference is that it's not impossible for you or for me to also generate that same network. It just takes a little bit longer. Yeah, Trump Jr., he's blessed because he was born into that network. It's like literally going straight into Harvard Law School or Harvard in general. You're not paying for the education that Harvard gives you. You're paying for the networking that Harvard grants you, right? And so that's
like the network is a big part of it, right? Like, I think we should really pause there for a minute, because a lot of the people that we're in, that's in our network understands this a lot, right? There's these events that we all have gone to and been a part of And then there's the green room and the people that are in these events. And the reality is people spend a lot of money to get in those rooms.
Mm-hmm.
People who don't have money think that the people who ask for money to get into those rooms are scamming you. People with money pay it. Why? Because they recognize the value of getting in a room. They recognize the value of that network. And so for the people that you're talking about, I think that even if they didn't have access to the wealth itself, which they do usually, they have access to the network. And oftentimes that's enough.
Yep, exactly right. I mean, I'm literally having a DM conversation right now with some idiot realtor who's telling me that fix and flippers only use their own money. And I said, no, it's all about the network. It's using other people's capital, private money, hard money, stuff like that. And a lot of people, I mean, especially realtors that don't invest themselves and don't understand this business, they just have a misconception of what business really is. So going back to my point about the crabs in a bucket, pulling each other down, that's what this unrealized capital gain tax plan is. It's for the ability to, I guess in a sense, fuel the fire of those that are at the bottom of the bucket to feel like they're never going to climb to the top. They're never going to get over the edge. So why would they let somebody else that's doing well in business, that's doing well in real estate? Why would they want to see somebody else be successful if they themselves cannot? And so this whole tax plan is literally embracing the victim mentality, and I do not support.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I do think that's part of it, but I think there's a bigger part of it. And I think the bigger part of that is this. It's ignorance. All right? Like, I think it's people hearing stuff on the news. And so when you're a politician and you're getting up there and you're saying things like, it's time for the wealthy to pay their part. Why should you be paying taxes and the wealthy people don't have to pay taxes? That sounds intriguing. That's a good point. I'm having a hard time buying milk right now. You got $100 million in the bank and you paid $0 in taxes. That's not fair. And so what they're doing is they're presenting it as if they're finally getting the man who's been dodging their responsibilities, right? The man, I guess for 2024, the person who's been dodging their responsibilities. And now, because we're finally going to get them to pay their dues, milk's going to be affordable now. And that's just not how it works. Because the reality is even if you do get more tax money, what are you, Mr. Government, spending that money on? Where is that money going? And maybe if we have a deeper dive into those questions and where those funds are being allocated, we'll start to get a clearer answer as to why the milk is the cost that it is. But people don't want to have that conversation, mainly because it's a difficult one and it requires a lot of time. It requires a lot of education and information that most people don't have the capacity or the desire to process. And so I think that what happens is it becomes with a topic like this that's so convoluted. If you're not in this space, it becomes very easy for you to just pawn it off, listen to the phrase that sounds really good and say, nah, I believe that. Rich people don't pay taxes. I do. F that. I'm going to vote for you. Jamarca, you said you had a video queued up. What do you have? What section of that video do you have queued up? Because there was some parts in there I thought were worth sharing. Did you have a specific part queued up? I'm going to share the link in the chat. If you guys have not watched that, I highly suggest you go in and check it out because he does a financial breakdown as a real estate investor of how this could impact you. It also gives a breakdown as an employer, how this could impact him, which could impact his employees. And the reality is if you own a big portfolio, and to the point that he makes in that video talking about, like, if you're doing pad split, you're providing affordable housing. Well, what happens if how many people do we know, Jeremy, right? Let's forget like that are in, we only know 2 people.
Yep.
Okay. Then that's it. But let's use Pace as an example. As a business person, how much can a business person that's got a big real estate portfolio, that's pad splitting, for example, 25% unrealized capital gains? How long until they just need to get out of that property and just sell it?
Well, I mean, in today's current market with people buying creative finance deals that barely cash flow as it is, and now they've got to come out of pocket $25,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, depending on the value of the property. They'd pretty much go bankrupt in year 1. I know I would. I've got a multi-million-dollar portfolio, and because I'm in Utah, which is not a cash flow state, it's an appreciation state. I'm betting on appreciation of my properties, and I'm also fixing and flipping, so forced appreciation. But I am not in Indiana. I'm not in Kansas. I'm not looking for, low appreciating properties with high cash flow opportunities. And so for me, if I had to come out of pocket average cost per house right now is in like $600,000. So what is that? Would that be $125,000 that I would have to pay to unrealized gains on some of my properties that I hold? That's no fun. I'm not okay with that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And one thing that I'm really interested in seeing how it plays out is how people talk about the economy going forward, regardless of what happens. One thing that people tend to use as a really, really good scapegoat, look at the economy during Trump's presidency, excluding COVID. And what does everybody say that is on the left? Oh, well, you can't give him credit. That was because of Obama, right? That's who's getting credit for it. So now we're paying for it. Okay. So if Trump gets into office and things turn around, for example, if they are turnaroundable this quickly, are they going to give him the credit, or are they like what happens? And I think they're looking to always evade the blame. But when you look at the current economic numbers right now, I believe this week there was a report that said that our numbers are worse officially than they were during the lockdowns.
Oh yeah. And you saw that the unemployment rates, they skewed the numbers by 800,000+ jobs. Not 8, not 80. 8, I think it was like 849,000 jobs. They skewed the numbers in the beginning of these elections to show that this was a better economy than it was, and the real numbers just came out. And they added 800,000+ jobs that were not real.
818, according to Derek.
Okay, thank you. So whichever. By the way, where are you seeing this chat? Where is this?
No, yeah, you don't have a thing. It's literally right there. Do you have us full screen?
I do have us full screen. Yeah,
unfull screen. It's all right there.
Well, dude, now I'm going to be moving you onto my teleprompter or off my teleprompter, and now I'm not even looking at you. I'm going to look at you there. Now the camera's over here. Anyway, whatever. Fine.
It's weird. Okay. I feel like there's probably a way for you to do that. 818,000. Yeah, it's really interesting. To that point, I've been hearing some conversation really making people wonder, okay, what's going to happen with interest rates, right? Because if there is a political strategy in getting interest rates to get dropped now.
You just saw yesterday Jerome Powell. Did you see it?
No,
did you see it?
I did not see it.
Jerome Powell, the head of the Fed, just literally said yesterday, we are doing a major drop in September.
That sounds right.
That inflation has slowed down enough that we will be doing a large rate drop in September. I'm happy about that because I literally told my renovation team to let's time this out so that the end of September, early October, we put our properties back in the market. So that makes me happy. But that's great for the market. That's great for real estate. Like, we cannot deny that, but it's just super convenient that it just happens to be a couple of weeks before the election.
I mean, what's the mathematical likelihood that the current party in office uses that as a part of their campaign slogan? Look, we got interest rates back down. Look what we did for the economy. It's all a game, and you know who's on what team. Whether you believe that or not, though, I just think that there's got to be a point of independent thought, and that's the part that I'm really, really having. I was having a conversation earlier this week in one of my coaching calls for my sales community, and politics came up, and we talked about a bunch of different aspects. We weren't just talking about economy; we were just talking about politics in general. And it's funny because one of the things that really, like, the final point that we concluded with was, if emotions are the only thing fueling your decisions, you should really, really be concerned, right? Because we started having a conversation. A person in the call, who I love and respect a lot, got super like they needed to talk and they just couldn't. And it was like, well, it's really interesting, right? Because if the second somebody said, and I don't care what side you're on, I don't care if you're a Democrat, a Republican, independent, or librarian, whatever you are, if someone says something and your knee-jerk response gets you so riled up on the inside that your brain shuts off and you can no longer think coherently, have a normal functional conversation and actually control your feelings to be able to listen to what the other person's saying before you respond with emotions, you're losing. You're losing. You're getting played. You're a victim of the circumstance. You are not in control of the circumstance. Even if they talk about your mama, even if they come for your mama, Derek. And here's the thing. I grew up in certain environments where there were certain things you didn't do. And if you came to somebody a certain kind of way, if you spoke with somebody, disrespectfully, you said something about their mother, it was on site, right? You handled your business and things were done quickly. You were justified in your emotional reaction. Looking back, all I remember is a bunch of really, really bad situations that never needed to happen if cooler heads had prevailed. How much of our lives is drastically impacted and changed because we made an emotional decision, not because it was the good decision, but because we felt justified in that decision in the moment. There is a big difference between feeling justified in your decision and your decision being the right one. And we don't understand that. And if the only thing, and in this conversation, all of a sudden this topic came up, they got emotionally charged, nothing else was on the table. And I was like, well, then that means you're losing. That means you're so beholden to your emotions surrounding that topic, it shuts your brain off. And then the conversation came up. What happens if you controlled your emotions? How would what you're viewing here change? And I think the reality is if we get our emotions out of this situation, what changes about how we view what's happening? And I genuinely think if people, and unfortunately, I got to say this again, I'm not a big Republican guy, right? I don't really believe in politics as a whole. I think they're playing us. I do. I think they're playing us, and I think we fall for these games and we get emotional about it. But especially on the left, I just see so much emotional reactions. You can tell me all the reasons you're not voting Republican because you don't like Donald Trump. Give me a handful of reasons why you like Kamala Harris.
Well, that's the fun part is I put a new challenge out there that whenever I'm talking to somebody online and they're or online or in person, whatever it is. And to be truth be told, I haven't really met many Kamala supporters in person. I don't see them. So I don't know when I see all these large crowds of supporters.
Are you trying to AI?
Did you see the AI? Yeah. Did you see that Kamala's whole entire PR team got exposed? Everything was AI. That being said, if the last podcast we did, it's not Democrat versus Republican any longer. It's conservative versus liberal. It's emotional versus logical. And so what I always say now, and this is the challenge I'll put out to anybody there that wants to vote for Kamala, you by all means can tell me why you want to vote for Kamala, but you cannot use 3 words. You cannot use woman, minority, or Trump in your argument. And let's see where that goes. I want to see. They can't. What's their argument? She doesn't have policy. She doesn't have anything to support. And you know what? Here's the thing, Derek. You say good versus evil. I'm not going to say that liberals are evil. They just don't think things from a logical standpoint, right? They're just basing it off of their feelings. And there are some, let's be honest. There are some fucking idiots out there, but on both sides. But I can also say that there's some conservative people out there that are definitely on the far, far right-wing spectrum that I don't agree with at all. And I would not call them good either. So the founder of Telegram just got arrested for what?
Throw us some info, dog. Like it happened right now.
I don't know anybody that uses Telegram other than like scammers that
Forex trading platform. You got to learn how to trade Forex.
Yeah.
No, I don't disagree with you, man. I think that's true, right? Like there's good and bad on both sides. And I don't know if you've seen this, but there's a lot of videos on social media right now where people are just going to, Kamala Harris rallies and just saying, hey, what do you love about her? And the amount of people who don't have an answer is crazy.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. I've seen, I don't know how many videos this week of them like just, what are your 3 favorite things? Now they're not even given the parameters that you're given. They're just asking them in general. And people still don't have answers. I genuinely think I would be surprised if 25% of Kamala supporters, and I'm just throwing out numbers here. Don't come for me. I could be wrong. But I genuinely would be surprised if more than 25, 30% of Kamala Harris supporters could name actual tangible reasons they're voting for her outside of those three things that you listed?
It's really funny, by the way. I want to say this to you. So there was this video.
Are you excited about Kamala Harris running for president?
Yeah, I am.
Absolutely. 100%.
I am excited.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
What was your favorite accomplishment of hers as VP of the United States?
Honestly, I can't answer that question.
You know, honestly, that's a good question. I can't really say specifically.
I can't, I'm humble there.
I can't think of anything, specifically.
I don't know. Sorry. I don't know. I haven't really been following politics.
So it's funny. So
Are you-
I actually made a comment on that post and I said, honest opinion, please include the interviews that actually gave an answer. These reels are so biased and you guys hand select the clips that make this go viral. Stop being as bad as the mainstream media. You're not helping. That being said, Trump 2024. That was what I commented on that. That comment went a little bit viral. Like people really liked it. And then believe it or not, the guy who did that video messaged me and said, I'm being totally honest with you. There was no other side. There was no clips of a valid argument towards that. And so I literally just got the clips and I shortened them. And that's what you see.
I just saw somebody that I'm pretty sure is a Democrat, and he went to a Trump rally saying something like, we love Kamala Harris or something like that. And he went for the purpose of getting people all riled up. Like he was open about that. He was like, I'm going to go start shit at a Trump rally to see if I can get people to go crazy. At the end of the video, he was like, I got to be honest, man. It was really, really hard to get a Trump supporter to go crazy, right? Like some of them would, speak their mind and say some stuff. Later, Derek, appreciate you, bro. Happy birthday to whoever it is. He was like, it was really, really tough, man. He's like, now there was some that would speak their mind and actually say what they felt. But for the most, like nobody would get physical. Like he was trying to taunt them to that point and he couldn't. He was talking shit. He was being aggressive and could not get anybody to do that. Yet you see these people who just walk around in Trump apparel and they're getting physically assaulted and yelled at and getting stuff thrown at them. At some point, we got to really have an honest conversation about what's actually happening here, but we don't. We don't have an honest conversation surrounding it. And that's the part I don't like. That's why I wish Jonah was here because, Jonah obviously represents that side. I don't think Jonah is that kind of a person at all, obviously. But he does strongly believe in that side. So I'd be interested in hearing, like,
do you think
what's your perspective?
Do you think it's funny that whenever Jonah is here, I'm not, but whenever I'm here, Jonah's not? Could we be the same person?
So you guys are saying you're Batman.
Could we be the same person?
We're the same person. This actually this makes a lot of sense. This answers a lot of questions.
No, so let's pivot real quick. This is actually a great segue into Kennedy Jr. Right? So, guys, I mean, if you guys haven't been watching the news, Kennedy Jr. was the third runner in this campaign, right? So he was getting the independent vote, and he has been a lifelong Democrat. JFK was a Democrat. Family's been a Democrat. It's literally been a Democrat family. His running mate is a Democrat, and he just yesterday announced that he is no longer supporting Democrats. He is putting his campaign on pause. He's not canceling his campaign, but he's putting his campaign on pause and came out onto the stage with Trump yesterday and said, I am endorsing Trump. So his roughly 5% swing vote in all of the battleground states is probably going to be pivoting towards Trump, especially what he said. And I'm just going to paraphrase here. He essentially said the loyalties, the values, everything that came about being a Democrat that years ago in the 1960s, being a Democrat was about anti-establishment. It was about transparency. It was about not censoring your words. It was about the people. It was about the working class. And he goes into the speech about everything that I think we all, doesn't matter like if I'm rich or poor, we can all say we don't want to be censored. We don't want to be controlled by the government. We want the working class to be supported. And that was the Democratic Party back in the 1960s and the 1970s. 80s come, 90s come, then things start to shift. And I think when social media starts to get involved here a lot more, that's when it starts getting divided more and more and more. And there's that graph that you're standing here, right? And you're in the middle of these two parties. And I'm going to be doing some weird things with my fingers here. So you're in the middle of these two parties, right? But then one of those parties shifts.
Are you in the Illuminati?
What is it? There you go.
No, I think you just did it. Okay, it's all right. Go ahead.
Anyway,
Go ahead.
That as one of the parties shifts more towards the extreme, then by default, even if your views have stayed the same, you have now shifted towards that reverse party, the other side of that spectrum, because the sliding scale has moved this way, but you have not. And I think that's what happened to Kennedy Jr. He's been standing in the same spot since the 1960s, being a Democrat, Democratic supporter, Democratic values. And then the sliding scale has now shifted. And what's now defined as a Democrat is censoring your words. It is not about family values. It is not, I mean, again, not Democrat, more like liberal, but the liberals tend to be more Democrats. And so life has changed. And so Kennedy Jr. said, I'm not running anymore as a Democrat, and I'm going to support Trump. And if you're going to vote for me, vote for Trump, because that's who I support.
You know, it's interesting. Somebody just sent me this. I don't know if you guys follow Dan Bongino, but he made this post, tweet, I think maybe yesterday or the other day. It says, when a lifelong Democrat from an iconic Democrat family who tried to run as a Democrat and whose running mate was a Democrat warns you about the dangers of voting for the Democrat in this election, you should probably listen. And I don't know that it gets much clearer than that. You have to ask yourself this question. Now, let's talk about, again, let's play some of the other side of the table. A lot of Democrats are going to say, oh, well, he's the black sheep of the Democratic Kennedy family. Okay, maybe, but why? And here's another question I would ask, and I don't think we can really answer this, obviously. Would Kennedy support Democrats today? One can we can say we don't know, you never know. Of course he would. But the reality is he was pushing back while he was alive at the beginning stages of some of the stuff that's already playing out full force. There are clips of him giving speeches talking against people behind the scenes, controlling the country and steering it in a fashion that doesn't reflect the values on which this nation was founded. He talks about this before it was even real. Some people believe that speech and those beliefs are a part of why he got assassinated in the first place. So while we don't know necessarily if he would still, if he were alive today, be supporting the Democratic Party, what I can say with a little bit of confidence is that the picture that he paints of the future he was trying to avoid looks like it's already played out in full force and is trying to continue growing. So I think there's a solid argument to say that maybe he wouldn't be supporting Democrat. And if that's true, is RFK in fact a black sheep, or is he just representing a family in a way that the Democrats don't want to accept?
Can we just add one last thing, is that when RFK was up on stage with Trump last night, that the announcement was made that Trump will also be releasing the JFK files?
Yep.
I'm excited about that.
Let's talk about a couple of things real quickly before we wrap up, guys. A couple of the things that I think are really important about this. One, I think he didn't cancel his candidacy. He just suspended it.
He put it on pause. Yes.
That were large. And I think there's a couple that he couldn't because of the timing. So I think Arizona is one example where he's going to be able to suspend and it won't impact Trump's ability to run. I've heard rumors about the possibility of him being put into, what was it? It was some sort of a position having to do with public health, maybe public health secretary, something having to do with public health. Let me see if I can find this, because if that ends up being the case, have you heard that?
Oh, I saw a meme that it was him versus like one of the trans political people that now identify as a woman, and it was like, and they're fat and big, and then you look at him and all buff and ripped, and they're like, if you're going to choose the I don't know, the director of health, look at the difference.
That's fair. Okay, let me ask you this: couple of final questions that I'd love to hear everybody's opinion on. Question number one: do you think RFK and his endorsement of Trump has an impact on the election, or is it just noise?
Can I give my opinion?
I'm asking you.
Well, you're asking the audience too. I don't want to give away the answer.
I'm asking everybody.
Okay.
Throw it in the comments. I'd love to hear your opinion, Jeremy. Yeah, what's your opinion?
So I'm not giving you my opinion. I'm giving you the answer. The answer is no. It did not have any effect because Trump had already won this, and
So you think that Trump's got this in the bag? This is already done. Trump's winning, and that was just an anecdote at best.
Yeah, I want you guys to clip this. Okay, we're gonna go back on this 3 months later, and you're gonna go, "Damn, Jeremy was 100% right." No, the truth is that every assassination attempt that's ever happened on a presidential nominee of any sort has always won the following election. It brings a lot of support in that direction. Number two, we know that the media leans left, and so we know that when we see AI-driven crowds standing outside of Air Force One that are like waving their hands for Kamala and they've got 15 fingers. We know that that's not real, and we don't like to be lied to. And a good friend of mine,
people really, really like being lied to, bro. I think that if anything has become clear in the last 10 years, that it's that.
There's that new meme, and Derek, I don't know if you're still here, but there's that new meme going around to say, "I do not regret not getting the vaccine." I don't think anybody who avoided the vaccine regrets not getting it, right? And so anyway, but that's a sidetrack from there. But
what was the first stat? No president who didn't win. What was the first stat that you gave? The first example?
That every presidential nominee that has had any form of assassination attempt has won the following election.
Okay.
Yeah. And so
okay.
Right. Because again, the emotional party crosses a line by trying to attempt that. And then what does that do? It puts that person up as being a hero. It lifts them actually onto a pedestal and allows them to shine. And I mean, the truth is, I think that Trump did a very good job after his assassination, which was a little bit over a month ago. We don't talk about it anymore. We don't hear about it anymore. I know that the DNC, the Democratic Convention, I think Trump's name was mentioned like, I'm just going to give a round number here. It was something like 394 times by all of the speakers that were up on stage.
Crazy.
394. And then at the Republican National Convention, I think it was 2 times that the other side was mentioned.
Wow.
And so this is not about policy for the Democrats. This is not about policy. This is about trying to cast hatred and put it on a shame game where nobody, like Obama and whatever his wife's name is, Michelle, both Obamas, they literally just roasted Trump every chance they could possibly get because that's the only firepower they had. Instead of lifting Kamala up with policies that made sense, they just tore Trump down. And the speechwriters were genius, by the way. I will say that. The speechwriters. What's that?
Have you seen this? Elon Musk shared this the other day. According to this post, Harris's coverage on these stations is 84% positive, while Trump's is 89% negative.
Oh, okay. I see. So for those that are listening, ABC, CBS, and NBC, Kamala was given 84% positive reinforcement by the newscasters, by the commentators. So 84% positivity and 89% negativity from Trump. So that's literally
they were saying, yeah, it's literally an exact paradigm opposite, right? Like everything that they're saying about Trump is negative with small exception. Everything that they're saying about Kamala is positive with small exceptions. Very interesting, right? Like this just paints a picture that I don't think people want to hear. And I think that the ramifications are significant of that.
There's something that I think Elon needs to do, though, that I'm a little bit upset about, that graphic you just showed with ABC, CNN, and NBC, I need to see the opposite side. I want to see Fox News.
Fair. That's fair. I respect that. Yeah, here's what's interesting. Okay, so you think it's already in the bag, and this didn't change anything. Guys, what are your opinions in the chat? Do you think Jeremy's right? Do you think it's already in the bag? Do you think RFK did in fact, have an impact? That base that was following RFK, he's going to get a portion of that base, and that base is going to get those swing states. Interested in people's opinions on how that works out. So then here is my other question. What do you think about him potentially getting a role in the administration? Do you think that that's going to happen? If so, what do you think that role looks like? Do you think it matters, or is this just all quid pro quo at this point to get into the election, and then they're going to forget about him once it's done?
I think Trump, if when he wins, I think he's going to reward RFK. I don't think there's going to be a problem with that.
What role would you like to see an RFK play in a Trump presidency, hypothetically?
Something where he doesn't have to speak.
That's it. That's all you got.
I can't stand his voice. I just can't.
And then you had to. All right. That's the way to do it.
I had to do it.
Yeah. Here's what's interesting. If the human health secretary or something happened to do with that, that would be very interesting to me. One of the things, and I am not a huge RFK person, so there's probably a lot I don't know. Don't quote me on this, but to my understanding is that he has been talking about the huge negative impacts that vaccines have had on children starting in the late 80s.
Real quick, hold on. In the chat, the unscientific poll that was run by Elon Musk ended on X at Kamala being 27% support and Trump being at 73%. Now the question is are we saying that X is going to be biased towards Republicans? I think that when Elon took over, I'd say that more Republicans probably moved over to X in support. But I think that those numbers give a very, very strong indication that the nation knows what they want.
So you think this is more accurate than skewed?
I'd say, if I'm just going to take a wild guess, I'd put it more at like 65-35. I think that X, when Elon took over, I think that X did lean a little bit more right. I think it shifted that scale a little bit over because Elon essentially said, I'm not going to let Twitter fucking censor shit anymore. Right? Like, did you see Elon's, that he just redid the emoji for the gun?
No.
So he changed it back to being a gun. It is no longer a squirt gun, right? And he actually created a graphic that shows where the wokeness, and I think he called it the woke virus, where it started. And back in 2018, that's when Apple changed the gun emoji to a squirt gun. And then they all kind of followed afterwards. And so Elon said, screw this. We're going back to a gun emoji, a real one. So I think that when Elon took over Twitter and turned it into X, I would say that probably a good majority of the far left that were on there before probably went away. And I think the majority of the far right that were never on Twitter because of that reason probably started with Twitter in support of Elon. So I'll say that it's probably a little skewed towards the right. But if I'm seeing 27-73, I would say realistically, I think 65-35 in Trump's favor.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I really, really wish Jonah was here because the question that I have, and guys, if you're watching this.
Hold on, I have to step away for a second.
And then you're going to come back as Jonah? I like it. Here's the thing, right? And guys, I've made my stance clear on this as I possibly can. If you don't know what it is, go back and watch. I'm just not a political guy. I'm really not. We're talking about this because it impacts our lives, and it's a very important conversation. But I'm not a huge. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm just a human being who lives in this world, and I don't think politicians are going to save us. I think it's our job to save us, and I think it's our job in order to do that successfully to think clearly and independently with our own brains, without being, played and brainwashed by TV. I am genuinely curious. Right? Trump's got his issues, and we could talk about those. What do you like about Kamala Harris? That doesn't include Donald Trump. I'm genuinely curious. What do you like about the Democratic Party? What about them do you think is helping you? What about them do you believe? I am genuinely curious. And I am wondering if anybody has an answer that doesn't include Donald Trump's name. I am really, really curious. Or to your point, having to do something with race or her being a woman. I'm really, because look at this. Like, just looking at this, I'm looking for the poll in Elon Musk's page here, and then I come across this, right? And it's just, look, literally last month. Let me say this as clear as I can. I'm the sitting president of the United States. This is Joe Biden. I'm the nominee
sure it is,
of the
by
Democratic
the way.
Party. I am staying in the race. This is not very long ago. Now, things happen, things change. But if you're going to tell me that there's anything about his health that progressed or declined this drastically in this short of a period of time that justifies this drastic transition, right? Show me what it is. Because one of two things happened. One, something really, really drastic happened, and they just haven't told us. Or two, they're lying to us.
I mean, Daniel, can we just really, really address for just a second that as of a month ago, that Joe Biden was considered mentally competent to run as president. And this, for the DNC, this happened 2 days ago. This was him on stage.
Earlier tonight, the United States Supreme Court majority wrote the following, quote, women are not without electoral.
Hey, Ron.
Wait, shoot. Hold on. Why did let me go back to the actual reel. Here we go.
As you heard earlier tonight, the United States Supreme Court majority wrote the following, quote, women are not without electoral or political power. No kidding.
What were they applauding?
Well, you know that by that point, the applause symbol, the sign,
100% went on. That thing was flashing. Like, please start clapping. Right. We need to get a distraction. And here's the thing. Somebody's gonna watch that. Here's the thing, guys. Here's this really sums it up for me in a nutshell. I love y'all. I don't care what party you support or believe in. I genuinely don't. Please tell me you're smart enough to recognize what just happened there. How can any adult, rational human being not look at that and say, crap, that dude is in bad shape? And so they put on the applause thing to distract us. But here's the thing. There are going to be millions of people who look at that and say, no, that's not what happened. Oh, you're making it. And they're going to defend it and try. Like, guys, get out of make-believe land. Like, if you really love and support the Democratic Party that much, that's fine. Go crazy. Love and support the Democratic Party. But at least be adult enough to admit that I love and support the Democratic Party. But yeah, they was messing with us right there. They were trying to cover up this dude stumbling through his words because something is clearly wrong with this guy. And that did not change in the last 60 days. That has been progressing for a very long time. And we have been pretending that it wasn't real. The news has been lying to us. The political party has been lying to us, telling us that it's not real. Just be honest about it. And here's the thing. If you can't be honest about that fact, then you should realize, take a strong look in the mirror and say, I'm lying to myself in order to continue to believe what I believe. And if you have to lie to yourself to believe what you believe, how toxic of a relationship are you in with your belief system?
Yep. You know, it's funny, and we could wrap it up with this in the sense of, for so long, for 4 years, everything that the right has been claiming was looked at as a conspiracy. Right? Everything was a conspiracy theory, everything. And it's really weird that now all those conspiracies are actually becoming fact. Did you see that they just brought impeachment charges to Biden?
No, I did not.
So they've literally brought enough evidence now to say that the Biden family did generate millions of dollars from Russia and China. And
they've had it the whole time. They just blocked it until it was too late to be of any significance. Like
the laptop that everyone said never existed, but actually it existed. And now it's proof that it existed. Things like that, guys. And again, the vaccine was, we needed it. It put millions of people out of jobs. And now we're recalling that same vaccine, saying that it's not healthy for the people that took it. There's so many things now that are coming to light. And again, it's about emotion versus logic. And the logical people are beginning to prevail. And the last thing I'll leave you with is that Trump did announce the other day about if he is elected, his new border policy. He is going to implement the death penalty to any major drug traffickers or any sex traffickers is going to be death penalty, and then he's going to be pushing for a life sentence for any immigrant traffickers or any coyotes. So, I mean,
why'd you have to say that with such an effect, with like an emphatic accent?
Coyote. Yes. So I am too 1% something, and I don't know what that is, but I'm going to claim it.
I'm 1% something, so I'm going to say
I can say coyote like that. Yep.
Okay.
So anyway, I think that, again, good emergency session here, Daniel, emergency podcast. I'm excited to talk about religion versus science.
Are you going to come hang out with us when we do that?
I'll come hang out. I mean, if you're okay with just being told you're wrong.
I mean, it's up to first of all, it's really up to Jonah. Second of all, because he's going to need all the help he can get. Second of all, there's no scenario where you win this. I'm going to eat you up like breakfast pancakes because it's a losing argument. Like, you're defending a losing argument right now. There is no come with whatever you like, pumpkin. It's gonna be a fun God versus science. If you or somebody you know is an avid science fan and believes that evolution is the foundation of our history, I would love to hear your perspective on this podcast. We're breaking it all down. And then we're going to get deeper into that subject. But Tuesday is going to be really, really fun. Would love to hear anybody's perspective on that. Appreciate you coming and hanging out, Jeremy. I think this is going to be interesting. We've been hearing for years that this is every election is the best, the most impactful election of our time. This might be one of the ones that I think where that's true. I genuinely think that I genuinely believe that whether or not we have a country at the end of this next term may or may not it may or may not hinge on who gets elected into office. I think we're a handful of years away of knowing whether or not America is still America and in existence the way we know it within a handful of years. But that's just my belief. I could be wrong. Only time will tell. Hopefully, cooler heads will prevail and people will start doing their own research. I don't even care who people vote for. I do, but I really hope what's more important to me is that people make the decision by thinking for themselves and not just doing what the TV tells them to do or what social media or their family tells them to do. That being said, guys, if you enjoyed this, share it with a friend, share it with a family member, do the whole like, subscribe, turn on notifications. We're trying to continue to bring really, really cool stuff to all of you guys. If you guys ever have topic ideas, we talk about all kinds of stuff, not just politics. Feel free to hit us with the topic ideas. And if you guys ever want to come hang out with us on the podcast, we would love to have all of you and hear what you have to say. That being said, go ahead, Jeremy.
I was going to say, as much as I love talking to Daniel about these things, if you are a Democrat or you are a liberal and you identify as that, please come on to this podcast because we'd love to actually have a two-sided conversation rather than Daniel and I echoing into a soundboard and just repeating each other's back and forth and all that stuff. So let's get some liberal Democrat people that are wrong on this podcast. Okay.
Guys, have an amazing Saturday. Go do something special. Make sure that you guys are following. Come hang out with us on Tuesday. It's going to be fantastic. Do something dope this weekend. Love y'all. Peace.